What's going on, everybody, and welcome to today's coverage of the NACL Open Qualifiers here on Aegis Esports, where we are going to be covering Lotus's journey as they attempt to make it to the top 16 and qualify themselves a spot in the promotion tournament to the North American Challengers League. My name's Gordo. I'm joined on the cast tonight by TDS. TDS spectate's still a little broken, so we are going to be watching some of these replay files as they come on through. Round one kicked off just about an hour ago, so we are going to be checking out Lotus's first game up against Gravity here, coming in as the number 5 seed, and they are going to be playing up against number 28 seed Gravity to start things off.
Exactly. There's going to be quite a bit of difference for this first round matchups, like you were mentioning, and luckily we don't have the client spectator working out perfectly, but that's fine. We've always worked around these issues, and it's going to be the same today. And as long as, well, technically we're representing Lotus to a certain degree, so as long as Lotus qualify, we're kind of happy with that. But for starters, draft is going to start first match of the day for Lotus, and it's starting with a pretty typical ban in the form of the Senna.
Yeah, I'm going to be looking to take that one away. So, I mean, to break down the Lotus roster here, because we're going to be spending a lot of time with them over these next couple of nights, they have made some changes from their OQ1 roster. They started on off. They're keeping Porsche, Forsen, and Mixture at top, bot, and support. The new additions to the roster are going to be Odd Orange and Robbie Bob coming on in.
Yep.
A little bit of a powerhouse roster with those additions now. These guys definitely going to be looking to make a big splash here in OQ2 and see just how far they can run with those upgrades at those two positions.
Exactly, and similar to some of the other rosters that were looking to try and maybe bring the firepower up in their own teams, they're doing the same this time around with some great additions. Robbie Bob and Odd Orange, they are players that have really good experience, not only in this level, in the NACL OQ level, but also even in the NACL. They've been subs for some teams in the case of Robbie Bob, and Odd Orange, just last year he was playing in the NACL, so that extra experience can maybe give an extra oomph to some of these players and allow for Lotus to be competing against the top teams. That's why right now they are in the number 5 seed position. That being said, there's still so much that they need to be able to accomplish, and it's a long road to try and get to the top.
Definitely. And I mean, having already finished top 4 in the last OQ, they're already sitting pretty comfortably in terms of points, but there's some really powerful rosters coming together here for OQ2.
Yeah.
Still plenty of teams who are sitting up towards the top. You got to look at Blue Otter and Winthrop as 2 of those top point scoring teams, and have your eyes on some of these teams like TFT and CCG, who are going to be looking to make deep runs and trying to claim a title for themselves for that free buy. So you really need to scoop up every possible when you can, and if you're Lotus, you need at least a top 4 run to be able to cement your spot in promotion tournament, and even that might not be enough. But there's Gravity insta-locking that freshly buffed Volibear. I do love these changes that came on through. I think they make him a plenty viable jungler, and I am very excited to see Gravity lock that in super early on. That's very likely going to be going for recallings in the jungle.
Exactly, and you're saying jungler. I'm not sure if I'm one of the few, or there's all there are few, but I'm one of those that believe that this could also be Bolivar top lane. Like, I think the buffs are still good enough to try and play him in different places, so I'm excited for the champion to be played, and I'm really happy that he got the love that he deserved after so much time post his rework. On the other side though, Lotus staying true to some of the meta that was still strong in the previous playing days, with the Smolder and the Karma, really strong duo, really good combination of champions that can be flexed, and going to be really exciting to see how they are going to be used and performed by Lotus. Gravity though, with the Volibear being flex potential there as well, you can try and go for your bot lane and try and set up a really steady backbone, and then play off of something weird in the jungle or in the mid lane. Nautilus and Talia being picked here.
Yeah, just looking to lean back on that scaling here. I think regardless of where you see the Volibear, by the way, just to chat about something new that folks maybe haven't gotten too much exposure to, with the patch being pretty new. I think across the board, these changes are buffs. The reason I look towards jungle is because of those buffs to the Q to give that extra movement speed, let you make those ganks happen a little bit more easily. But I think regardless of where you play him, you appreciate a lower or a better Q ability either way. You also kind of do appreciate the substantial reduction in cooldown on the ultimate, regardless of what position you're playing in. Yes, it deactivates the turrets for less time as the trade-off, but the time you deactivate the turret for is not nearly as important as the fact that you deactivate it in the first place. You get to reset that tower aggro, you get to reset that amping up damage. Whether it's 4 seconds or 6 seconds doesn't make that big of a difference.
It's the value that you get off of the initial play, right? Like, obviously having it longer can be great, but the general idea is always great to have, and I'm pretty sure that's what you end up valuing quite a lot there. And it's going to be great to have the Bolivar that you were mentioning. Newer champions are always great to see, but what is not new is the bans that are coming through. Maybe actually that last one is something that we haven't had a lot of chance to actually see playing, but a lot of focus towards the bot lane with those Bears and Saya bans, and then the Rumble and the GP just gives a bit of an open opportunity to try and go for different things. If the Alistar does get picked here though for Lotus, that means that it's mainly top lane or mid lane that is remaining, since this Karma probably going to go to one of the 2 solo lanes. And on the other side, it's remaining to see their AD carry and what they want to play in other lanes as well. As I want to bring up the fact that TF a bit of going under the radar feels like after those nerfs. Some people were arguing that they don't think that the nerfs were enough. I am also on that side. I think Twisted Fate, the nerfs aren't really that big to justify the priority going down that heavily. But it looks like for other teams or for other people, it's going to be the case as the Kai'Sa gets picked here.
Yeah, I mean, we saw Quacker busted out earlier already today for wildcard in their win over Cincinnati Fierce. Spoiler alert, if you haven't gotten to see the NACL games of the day quite yet. But yeah, I agree. That Twisted Fate, the nerfs are mainly to AP. I mean, nobody's been building AP. So I completely agree. I think that Twisted Fate's still really strong. As we round out the draft here, I do think I'm seeing the light of the Volibear top lane in this draft, TDS. I mean, it's possible that it's Gragas top, Talia mid, Volibear jungle, but there's definitely space for this to be like Gragas mid, Talia jungle, Volibear top as well. Would probably like to see the Volibear come in through the jungle just because give you some more pressure in towards that ganking ability, but plenty of good setup here for the Talia regardless. I do feel like this Gravity comp's got a lot of magic damage, I'll tell you that much. I think this is a build Kanik, Rookern, and Chill angle for the Cassante for sure.
It does have quite a bit of potential there for to be quite valuable. Like you're mentioning, the flexibility is going to be great, so there's a lot of room to try and play around with it. The K'Sante, though, I do think that it means that it's going top lane, Karma mid lane. Although we did get toasted today playing the K'Sante mid lane, I wasn't really convinced about it, but there's also the room for it to go that way. There's quite a lot of flexibility in some of these champions, and I like that both of these teams are trying to play around where some of these picks may end up going. You don't want to just be telegraphed in where you send the champions, but instead try to play the man games with some of the other teams. So really interesting idea, really interesting first draft for both of these teams. And we didn't talk much about it, but this is also buffed Kai'Sa, a Kai'Sa that has had quite a lot of theory crafting going into her build. I think it was today afternoon I saw one of the builds that has been popping up quite a lot, which is more focused towards her AP damage, but she gets the man immune. So there's a lot of talk about what she's capable of doing, and I'm excited to see what Gravity tries and do with the Kai'Sa.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting one for sure. The Kai'Sa starting to like rise up in popularity a little bit more lately. I'm interested to see how well it's going to be able to do up against the Smolder. I do think there's a little bit of a Ezreal-esque philosophy to be found there, where the Kai'Sa is one of these AD carries that can kind of chase down the Smolder when he uses that really powerful disengage power that he's got with the flap. You can at least chase him down with Killer Instinct. Killer Instinct also got a fat range buff on this patch. You can jump from far away now compared to how you used to. It's like a 33%-ish range buff or something like that, maybe even more. Just trying to do the math off the top of my head. So we'll definitely see
buffs.
Yeah, I mean, that's that. I mean, this is a fun champion to watch, don't get me wrong, but this champion infuriates me. It does everything. I don't understand why is this champ the way that it is? They should just pick something and let her do one thing rather than do a little bit of everything. So, I mean, is it going to be poke Kai'Sa? Is it going to be assassin Kai'Sa? Is it going to be DPS on hit Kai'Sa? Who's to say? But regardless, it's definitely a little bit stronger now than it used to be. So a big support of this Gragas. I think it's the least likely to be jungle of the three champs locked in. And I think lane Gragas is pretty good.
Yeah, we saw it last night in the ACL, right? Solde pretty much dominating a game by himself with a Gragas. Went overboard a couple of times here and there, but had the power to be able to completely dominate their lane opponents. It was against a melee mid laner, so maybe the dynamic here against a Karma changes quite a bit, but overall it could be quite interesting. Although this could be also a Gragas in the top lane, and against a K'Sante maybe you find more value there and able to make better trades overall.
Yeah, and with that, it looks like we're ready to get onto the Rift for game number 1. Don't need to wait out the spec delay when you're watching off of VOD files, and it does look like it is going to be Volibear in the jungle coming on through here, and Gragas in the top lane. So this is going to be Recallings piloting the Volibear and what he is going to be able to get done there on that bear.
I wanted to see it in the top lane, but I cannot get whatever I want every time. Seeing the Volibear already is going to be quite exciting, and I want to see what they are able to accomplish early on. Looks like they're waiting for a potential invade, but this could also turn into a late invade coming in from Gravity. Maybe try to cheese out some early advantage to mess up Odd Orange or the Lotus bot lane.
Yeah, very possibly here. As checking this out, this is looking like Geiger in the bottom lane. Is Forsen Geiger? Forsen is Psycho. I thought, so Psycho is Geiger. I actually never knew that. Okay. I thought Geiger was a distinct player.
The more you know, we get to learn new things with some of the things that happen with some of these players.
All right, so this is going to be still Forsen in that bottom lane, running the full starting roster here for Lotus. People still on live server messing around with names that aren't the ones they registered with, but that's just life.
So it seems Geiger, it's Geiger, Forsen is Psycho, apparently.
Okay. Psycho named himself Geiger because he's cringe. All right, that definitely sounds right. So Forsen is Psycho, Geiger is Geiger. I was pretty sure of that, but I see on the League Wiki they got him called out for the Geiger username, so he's just, he's goofing around. He's playing with names that aren't his. Love when that happens. But it is the full starting roster, as we are going to start off that laning phase. See exactly who is going to be able to end up on top. Definitely going to be a little bit of a slow start for the Smolder lane. So be paying close attention to how Smolder is going to be able to keep up his stacks and how he's going to be able to keep himself safe. As Robbie Bob taking some aggressive trades up against Decare earlier on and is going to get him chunked out with that ulti Q.
Going to do some really good damage to start it off. Like we were saying, Karma still quite a bit of a bothersome champion to try and deal with early on, but it's not going to be the end of the world with some of those traits, how they are going to go. Just quickly to point out, both Youngers starting on their top side, meaning that there may be a slight fight going into the bot side, and having the control early on in both mid and bot lane may end up benefiting the Odd Orange quite a bit. And talking about our Odd Orange quickly as well, one of the junglers that, like we were mentioning, or one of the players, like we were mentioning, that has quite a lot of experience when it comes to this sort of amateur events that you can try and trust him to allow for the team to do really good. And he's also one of the players, or one of the junglers, that loves to be proactive and active in the map. And I think that as the Vi, he's going to try and look really early on for action and make the team get a lead really early on.
And I'm sure this is going to come up as we get later into the tournament, but one of the players that's made this journey before as well, right? Like there's players who get plucked out of amateur and get promoted up to NACL by a team recognizing their talents and deciding to give them a shot.
Yep.
And that's not to hate on any of those players in any way, but Odd Orange is a player who promoted directly, right? He was playing with Maryville when they made their run through and they made their win in the promotion tournament. He knows what it takes, and will definitely be one of those players to watch if Lotus do intend to make it that far, and you know that they do with this roster that they've been able to put together here, getting Robbie Bob and Odd Orange to join up the squad and complement those points that they were already able to pick up in OQ number 1. Teleport back to mid lane, going in for Dakar. That's going to get matched by Robbie Bob. So both mid laners just coming on back to lane, still pretty even Steven when all is said and done. It's going to continue their duel back and forth here, and not too much action from the junglers yet. We do see recallings already emerging up on this top side.
Yeah, actually a quieter early game than I was expecting to see, but so far okay. Just like that, they won engage on Urazen.
Yeah, nice combo there from Mixture, going to set up for the follow-up, and Raisin going to be able to use that supercharger to get himself the extra distance and back on away in time. So Forsen not going to end up forcing him out of lane or anything, but still showing that threat, showing that engage range that the Alistar brings to the table, and keeping him feeling that threat as Robbie Bob finds another big Q, and it's going to just keep Dakar on the back foot. Now without access to that teleport, you've got to be very conservative with that health bar, making sure that you're going to be able to stay in lane as the Talia.
Exactly. Some of the training have been quite nice between the side of Lotus to try and force their opponents to be in the top spot, and it's been working out really, really well. Looking at each of the lanes, it just feels really comfortable for the Odd Orange because he hasn't had any sort of pressure inside of his jungle, and that may be one of the things that this newer Bolivar may get. It's being able to put a bit more of a better fight early on, but it's looking so effective for them, and a lot of control early on, although maybe we begin seeing a bit of fighting here with both Itachi and Odd Orange fighting.
Yeah, there's going to be a 1-level lead available for Odd Orange just for a second, but it does look like they're going to be able to catch up on the other side. And now look at Mixture going on in, going to be able to pick up that first kill for Forsen. Actually picked up by the Alistar. Maybe not the target you would have wanted, but it's first blood gold nonetheless. And it's going to put Lotus on the board early on. Also going to deny this wave from Urazen. So really good start here for Lotus. Is this going to let Odd Orange just waltz up and take that dragon?
That has to be the worst start for the side of Gravity that you were hoping for. Urazen forced already down quite a lot to the Smolder, losing a bit of the wave, but importantly, the only good thing is that the Smolder doesn't get the kill, because that could have been a big difference maker. That being said, the lane has been played so far so well by both Geiger and the Alistar, and they're doing such a good job at just making it so that they can pass the early lane phase really effectively and not allow for these Kai'Sa to scale as much as possible.
Yeah, definitely agree. But you were calling this out earlier. I mean, I really would have wanted to see recallings try to make some plays happen pre-level 6 on this Volibear, right? You're going to be stronger in those duels early on. You can start ganking before you're level 6 using that Q, and he just wasn't able to find a good angle to make anything happen. Now Odd Orange is going to have access to that cease and desist by the next time they encounter each other, and probably going to be able to bring superior value to a lot of these ganks other than in like specific dive situations.
It's going to be so much easier to lock down champions like the Kai'Sa or the Talia that even if they have flash, it's just a point and click follow-up ultimate and you're able to get on top of them. But Also, the level 6 from the Bolivar, we were talking about this in draft. The important part out of that, it's the dive setup. And if they're able to get... Oh, wait.
Ooh, fight breaking out. Geiger going to be forced to use the flat flap to get on out of there. That's Forsen, by the way, not Geiger. Going to keep messing that up throughout the night, probably. They keep to trade back and forth. Now, looking like there's going to be a little bit of a gank being set up here by Recallings coming in through the gap behind. There's going to be the flash away from Forsen. Mixture in the middle of everybody going to punt back Recallings and make it a 1-for-1 trade, funneling gold into that Smolder, and we're going to call that even.
That was beautiful by Mixture there with the perfect flash timing to get on top of them and able to set up the kill for Geiger. Yes, you blow the flash off of Forsen, I mean, in the bot lane, and also Mixture has to blow his. But getting that kill onto the Smolder is something really useful and something that can set up really well for the side of Lotus.
Absolutely here. Really good heads up play there by Mixture, recognizing that somebody's going to be going down in this gank, but we can make it even. There's going to be Mom coming on down from Forsen, not going to be able to land into a Raisin who flashed forward. Now going to force the flash with the Achu. Great moves there, knowing the threat that brings on in, and now Raisin without access to those summoners going to have to back away. Applause getting thrown back once again as Mixture finds him a second time. Odd Orange waiting there to guarantee the kill goes to Smolder. 2-0 start for Forsen.
And Lotus, they are running so far so well with this early game. Really nice sidestep by Robbie Bob, and everything is just working out super well for them, although maybe Bolivar can finally find something here. No.
Recallings, looking for an equalized opportunity, but the Karma gonna be one of those champs that's tough to gank. You need the movement speed on the Volibear. Thundering Smash is just a movement speed boost that leads into a stun. If you get slowed up by a Karma Q and she's speeding herself up with the shield at the same time, you're just not gonna catch up.
Going to be really difficult, but ganking a Karma, technically it's really difficult in general. You're just waiting to get on top of someone and the Karma just gets extra movement speed boosts plus the slows in her Q. It's just a really bothersome affair there. I like the attempt, but we probably have to see Tachi more on the bot lane once again, and also maybe try and go for TC Porch.
Very well, might. He's just been hanging out here farming on the Cassante. I've been interested to see just how much Cassante we've gotten to see over the last couple of days. This champion got Akali to the max, lost so many mechanics in this last patch. No longer slowing on Q while in All Out, no longer getting that faster recast on W while in All Out, losing out on a lot of dash speed as well, but still looking like a bit of an evergreen pick here, as plenty of players have been willing to keep locking him in.
And people still like it really quite a lot, and understandably so. Like, I understand there was, like you were mentioning, Akali level changes, but it just feels like the champion still does so many things well that it's going to be difficult to kind of impact or make the level of impact that you're looking for. Eventually they're going to nerf him to the ground enough that it's not going to matter like they did a while ago, but it's just like the champion just gives you so much avenue to do so many things.
Absolutely here. I mean, they did give him some base stats to compensate, so still going to be a pretty safe blind pick in a lot of these lanes, even up against stuff like the Gragas. You can see TC Porsche just starting to build out his lead in the one-on-one up against Spencer. Got about 2 extra waves to his name as this next wave is dying the tower before Spencer's going to be able to get to it. Really solid, you know, just ends up about 400-ish gold ahead. And it's nothing to scoff at when otherwise there hasn't been too much action going on this side of the map.
And realistically, so far, it's been just so much laning advantage that you cannot say a lot about the junglers. Like, obviously, maybe Tachi trying to impact the lanes a bit more, but apart from that, it just feels like it's been completely on Lotus's lanes that they've been able to get most of the advantage. Reminds me, once again, of yesterday's ACL game where they just completely dominated the lanes from the side of BlackRock, and it just never was enough for the junglers to do anything and have an impact.
All right, here is going to be an attempt from Recallings to make a play on these grubs. The full 3 will be taken by Odd Orange, none taken away. Meanwhile, Forsen just pushing out his own in the bottom lane, calling over Mixture for a little bit of a play, trying to knock Applause further away from the tower, not finding the headbutt angle. Both supports will just back on away from each other, but I mean, Lotus, they're not as explosively on the board as BlackRock was yesterday, TS, yeah, but they don't need to be. I mean, this is a Smolder Karma comp. They're just hanging, waiting for the mid game, waiting for the late game. They will be stronger.
Exactly. The fact of the matter is that still they are ahead and they are doing a really good job at trying to make the most with their lead.
Absolutely, they are. And now just stacking up these dragons as well. I mean, they're the ones taking the kind of snowball-y approach to the game. They're the ones stacking up the dragons. They're the ones getting grubs, but they're also the ones with the scaling advantage. This is really not a great look here for Gravity. They're going to need to find themselves a way to get back into this and start having a method to play through, a pathway towards being able to get ahead in this game. Spencer looking for a solo play on a Porsche, who is tanking up the turret there. That hollowed, whatever it's called, the hollowed aura item, the one that's like a Sunfire cape, making him take aggro. Will let Spencer get a pretty solid trade, but not too much else.
The one that is like a Sunfire, but it's purple instead of red.
Exactly.
But that was a good start, I guess. Making some damage onto the Cristante. Obviously, it's not going to be that important, but you have to take your fights anywhere you can, and you have to try and make something happen, even if it's just the smallest things. As we see also here with the setup from Tachi just waiting on the side. I like that they are trying to play for these lane ganks, because this is maximum risk. If it works, you can get back into the game, put your Raisin into a really good spot. If it doesn't work, that probably means that your game is going to get even more difficult.
Absolutely here. Yeah, it's a Hollow Radiance, by the way. I looked at it. That's what it's called. Now we know. Going to be a very valuable item here for Porsche, for sure. Is now looking at what Recallings is doing in the bottom lane, just hanging out in this bush. Gonna get spotted by the ward. Clears it out pretty fast. You do get a lot of auto attack resets on Volibear. That's why you take the press the attack. So you're going to be able to clear those out pretty easily, but I don't think that that's too much of a consolation when you've been wasting time hanging out in bottom lane and you're just not going to be able to turn it into any kind of positive play.
Yeah, the problem is that in the meanwhile, what that was happening, the Odd Orange just completely got every bit of farm that he wanted. He's 115 CS to the 79 of the Volibear. It's just such a long play that he's trying to hold on for hope here. I was talking about risk, but this is really putting the game on one play.
Oh, okay. Actually walking into the bush here is Mixture, but just going to pop that Unbreakable Will very early, flashing out to safety. Mom comes down to lay down covering fire, and they just have to back away yet again. It's been Recallings focusing this bot lane over and over again. They're losing the Rift Herald for this commitment, and they aren't even taking out much of their health bars, although now without access to that Unbreakable Will, might be time to disengage here for Force, and Mixture going to be stuck underneath the turret, trying to buy some time, gets the double knockup, but here comes the deactivate coming in from Recallings. He's going to melt on down just too damn fast to Forsen, as Erased trying to get away, going to get chased down by the dragon, and Forsen is trying to turn this one into a triple kill. Fast Spider-Man to safety comes out of applause, but that's a 2-for-1 in Lotus's side.
But that took them so long to make it happen, and it just doesn't work out great. Oh wait, Decker.
Oh, full gank coming in at mid lane. Decker using the ulti shield, trying to stay on alive, or rather that was the Seraph's Embrace, but Robbie Bob going to be able to take him down either way. It's a 1-for-1 in mid. Maybe a little over-aggressive there from Odd Orange, disrespecting what Seraph's Embrace is bringing to the table. But Robbie Bob takes him down anyway.
There's a lot of people that disrespect it, but I really want to give credit to Decker there. A really nice play, getting the shove back and able to get enough damage onto Odd Orange and onto Robbie Bob. Yes, Robbie Bob doesn't die, but a 1-for-1 in that situation, probably one of the best things you could have hoped for. And it kind of takes away a bit of the misplay that happened down there in the bot side that gave so much gold to the Smolder. Just makes it so that it's a bit better to try and play around, but the game is still looking really tough for Gravity. Lotus has a Smolder that is really far ahead of the opposing Kai'Sa, and he's going to get stronger and stronger. Oh no, Raisin.
Mixture finding a great angle onto Erased there, who is going to be able to jump right back over with the Killer Instinct. Odd Orange hovering in the wings, trying to get that slow down. Robbie Bob chasing as well, has access to the Malignance for the extra damage. They just aren't going to commit here. Odd Orange has no flash, has no ultimate. They decide they're not going to be able to chase him down here. Instead, just going to play for the guaranteed Scuttle Crab, get set up for the next dragon, and keep on playing it conservative and safe.
Ooh, Spencer having to blow flash there, worried about what could happen in Robbie Bob.
A little bit of an all-in coming through onto Robbie, but he's got the backup coming through right away, and he's got enough shields to keep himself alive. The full focus out of the Kaisa. Raisin has to flash out to safety, but Robbie Bob now there to lay down covering fire as Mixture going to be able to look for the escape, getting boosted on out, shoved back in by the Talia, and Decker going to be able to pick up that kill for the Volibear, and now Forsen arrives, and that's time to call it quits on the play. Lotus lose one. Gravity starting to find themselves a little bit of a play here and there. Still pretty far behind, but showing signs of life.
Doing a really good job in the counter there. They were under or not expecting that they were going to lack damage for that play. The Kai's able to survive at the last second, and they also love Mixer at an important point. It doesn't look like they are not going to be able to have the Alistar for the dragon if there's a dragon fight, but it's still an important trade that they were able to force, as Robbie Bob has to run, not going to get killed, and the dragon soul point going to be looking quite feasible for the side of Lotus.
Going to be looking feasible indeed, as Dragon now going to be the startup here. They are looking to focus in on towards the Lizard, and should be able to grab themselves the third ones here. This time Gravity not going to let it go down too easy though. TC Porsche starting off the fight on the other side, trying to isolate Applause, who gets the damage rained down onto him, pulled back in, all out coming through before too long, but instead it's going to be Mixture looking to back him up, and Porsche going to start off with the first kill. It's a 5 versus 4 now as the poke continues to come in from Robbie Bob, and already Lotus just going to back away, start off the Dragon again and say, all right, now you're at a numbers disadvantage, try to stop us now.
Yeah, it may have been only the Nautilus that gets killed, but with that disadvantage, not only in Champions, but also a bit in health bar, they have to give up the Dragon. It's going to be Dragon Soul Point in favor of the side of Lotus, and the game just looking so well for them. If they get the Ocean Soul, that's going to be really difficult to actually be able to kill some of these champions with the amount of healing and also tankiness that they have.
Healing and tankiness, absolutely tough to cut through here. That first Ocean Dragon going to go into Lotus's pockets. Find themselves now just one dragon away from the soul. And Lotus looking like they can do no wrong here, giving up a little bit here and there. Mixture going down a couple of times, but it's always in trade for something positive, and Lotus find themselves with a 4K gold lead as we approach the 20-minute mark. And this 4-0 Smolder just feels like a ticking time bomb for what Gravity's trying to work towards.
But how much do they have to wait for the ticking time bomb? He's 183 stacks, 2 items, level 12. Like, I think Smolder is already in the point of being able to explode people. It's really strong at this point in the game, and I'm kind of scared that Gravity is not going to get a lot of, or it's not going to have a lot to be able to go back. He's even 2 levels ahead of the Kaisa.
Yeah, charge coming on in, going to easily be able to take down that tower for Odd Orange, and now while everybody else is focusing in on the Rift Herald, they're going to get some control over this topside river. More and more gold just being funneled into Lotus's pockets as they continue to take whatever they want on the Gravity side of the map. Ward's layer down, set up for the Baron. The Speed Shrine will keep vision of them for now, but that will not be lasting for too much longer. Then it's going to be time to start face checking for Gravity, and that is a recipe for disaster.
And honestly, if not for the Void Grubs and some kills, it really could have been just a total blowout of a game against Gravity. Like, they haven't had a lot of chances to even get on top of the turret. The only one that has hit the turret effectively is a Spencer up there in the top lane. Like, you can even see the health bars. They haven't taken even that much of damage in the other parts of the map, and it's not like they've been able to find a lot of proactive plays. Their play that they even got a couple or 1 kill there, down there on the bot side, came from a play that was forced by the side of Lotus. Their proactiveness hasn't really been that effective or that consistent, and it doesn't look like they are going to try and get more going in their favor.
Absolutely here. They're going to need to rely on a mistake from the Lotus side for Gravity to be able to try to make their way back into this. Just hoping that somebody loses their mind. Probably Forsen would be the best path forward. You know, you have that little Smolder just start flapping his way into your team and pick up that kill. You know, find him out of position, find some picks, get that shutdown gold, and then maybe be able to find yourself a path to winning through there. But it is going to be tough, especially now that Porsche has the Jock Show done. I mean, we talked about it in draft and feel like it's proving itself pretty true here. Porsche can just stack magic resistance. It's very, very tough for them to really be able to work their way through his health.
Yeah, like even the one that can go over him, which is the Kaisa, has to get kind of close to the K'Sante, and I don't think you want to get close to the K'Sante. That's a big issue that you have to worry about.
And even then, she's optimized for plasma procs, which do magic damage.
Yeah. So even then, like you're talking about, she has to get more pen in her favor, I mean. And it's going to be difficult for the Kaisa, for at the very least at this point, to go over the K'Sante like that, and he's going to get tankier. So it's just a difficult affair in general for Gravity. Lotus hasn't forced much. It feels like they are waiting for the Dragon to maybe try and force a bit more into the game. But it's not like there's a lot of windows that Gravity can try and take advantage of, and if that's the case, it's going to be really difficult to be able to get back into favor.
Indeed here. Full control over the top side with that Baron on the table belongs to Lotus. Porsche pretty deep behind enemy lines over on the bottom side, and Applause going to be the target. Just gets all outed, caught out with nobody to help him. Forsen cleans up the kill, goes unstoppable. They will move on up towards Baron.
Maybe a bit of overkill for the Nautilus, but All Out gets the kill and they are able to move into the Baron. The Smolder at this point, they'll squile a lot of Baron damage, so they are going to start it off really well, and they have to walk in. Look at that damage from Robbie Bob.
Yeah, and look at Mixture just waiting in on the flank as well. Over the wall, cease and desist coming on through. Mom reigns through the team. Erasin trying to find a way to be safe and is able to take out the odd orange, but now the carries are looking to chase him down on the other side. Robbie Bob works his way through to Care, rips him apart, and Forsen is chasing down on the top side, getting Spencer out of the fight. It's a double kill for Robbie Bob in the mid lane, and Lotus win out on the fight as they planned. There's another kill for Forsen, and this is a near ace as Lotus looks to crack open the base.
Yeah, Forsen just comes in flying, able to get the last kill onto Spencer, and the game looking really, really close to being over. Baron Bob is waiting to be his lane. He's just watching as he knows his demise is going to come the same way that Gravity just saw their demise happen. And at this point in the game, it's really difficult to see the avenues for Gravity. It's not impossible, don't get me wrong, but Smolder with 3 items and the amount of damage that they were already dealing, it's going to be really, really scary for Gravity.
Yeah, and past the 225 stack mark as well, sitting there at nearly 250, means the execute damage is adding on up. Gravity members just melting so quickly in the face of the Smolder. Going to try to deny the soul here. Odd Orange is watching. Teleport being channeled here. Porsche going to look to rejoin right away. Robbie Bob going to be able to join him, coming in from the bottom side of the flank. It's going to be another 5-on-5 for the Dragon Soul. The Dragon will go down, but Lotus are ready to start off the fight. Mom comes through the rest of the team. Erasin diving in right onto Robbie Bob, but loses out on the one-on-one. Odd Orange punches him down for the last kill. Mixture locking down Applause on the other side, trying to find kills as Takare is cut off from the rest of the team and melted by Robbie Bob. Lotus get themselves a 2-for-0.
May just be 2 casualties, but it's going to be quite a lot of damage onto the base. And the 3 members that are left, I don't know if they are going to be able to stop the onslaught. That is so much damage once again by Lotus, and even if they lost the soul, the game is still perfectly in their grasp. They are going to keep on pushing. They are going to try and get onto the base, and I don't know what the Hail Mary play is going to be at this point.
Ooh, dive on in from Mixture, trying to focus on towards Spencer. Look at Forsen, keep your eyes on him. He is going to get hit by the depth charge. Nobody going to be able to get past the front line, though. Damage still coming out. Shoes getting thrown on the other side while Robbie Bob and Odd Orange work their way onto the turret, and it will fall. This is going to be an inhibitor for Lotus as Gravity have to fall back, regen up, and try to take a second go with the fight. Mixture coming on in, maybe a little bit late here, just tanking up a whole bunch of tower shots, and now they've got to find their way out. I mean, Forsen can just flap his way right on over, but it's looks like they want to try to get themselves a little bit more. Mom comes on across. There's going to be the third, and Tofo strikes to pull in the team, but Porsche still getting melted down by all 4 members. Dive on forward from Forsen. He goes legendary as he takes down the mid laner. Execute damage, turns it into a double kill as another is cleaned up by Robbie. It's a 2-for-1, but they want to end the game right here, right now. Lotus starting off onto the Nexus turrets, trying to clear things out from recalling, throwing down the Sky Splitter, and Porsche will get low enough that they feel forced to back away. Lotus will not be able to close out the game here.
Yeah, they don't close it because they kind of want to wait longer. They perfectly fine could have tried and forced a little bit more, but it just doesn't feel like it's going to matter. Maybe they take 1 or 2 more minutes, but Lotus looking to just end the game up in a really effective manner. So far, so good. And I'm kind of excited to keep on seeing this Lotus roster. Yes, Gravity doesn't feel like they put much of a fight in the start of it, but you also have to give a lot of props to Lotus because they didn't allow for them to get a lot of fighting chance.
Yeah, and I mean, and I love the willingness to play a comp like this where the star is Forsen, everything's getting funneled into Forsen, and, you know, they play it out pretty textbook, right? They keep him safe. He's willing to make the plays, like flashing forward in the base there to guarantee that they're able to find more kills. He's executing on that role really effectively, and it just shows the depth that this team has. Because you look at the roster on paper, and you know that they can play through Porsche and Robbie. Yeah, this is just going to be an easy kill. There's no chance here for Recallings to get out of this. He will drop to Odd Orange, and Lotus, it's all over but the screaming here, TDS.
He was just forming a crump, and he wasn't even able to get that. But yeah, it's just waiting for them to decide that they want to end the game. They are waiting for some waves. They are waiting to corral them in their base and just try and close it out. I kind of want to see how much damage Forsen does at this point with 4 items in the stacks, just to see if he's able to burst the Kai'Sa.
Well, we'll find out pretty soon here as Porsche is stepping forward, looking for the slows. The first Nexus turret will fall. Forsen just working on the towers. He is all business, not trying to stack up kills. Finally, Eraser going to get thrown back into the team. And there's that burst damage you are looking for, TDS. Forsen finishes off the kill, goes legendary at the double digits now. And they're going to see just how many members they can clean up in their own fountain, spitting fire across the rest of the team. Nobody dropping quite yet, except for the Nexus, as Lotus take themselves up to a 1-0 start.
A slight attempt there to get even more KDA padding, but at the end they get the victory, and that's all that matters for Lotus. Really strong game, maybe a bit of hiccups here and there, but overall just a consistent game. Like, I cannot say that there was a big major issue that I can find in the game. I think they played really, really well, and the longer they get the chance to keep on playing together, the better it's going to look, because they have players that are really exciting to see. So really good first game in my eyes.
Pretty good in mine as well. Really hard to criticize with what they've been able to put together for themselves here. So entering into the 1-0 bracket, Lotus get their first win. It's going to need at least 3 to make day 2, or going to need at least to make week 2. They're going to need at least 3. There's only 2 games being played here on day number 1, so the best you can hope for is a 2-0 start. Nothing set in stone after this first day, but that's a great start. You definitely want to be able to take those wins in the high-low seed matchups, and it looks like they are going to be matched up against Castleberry in round number 2.
And probably not the hardest of matchups they could have hoped for. There's only 2 more teams that would, or actually 3 more teams that would have been on top of them. And the only reason why this is the case is because of the upset of Blue Otter. So this kind of expected, but it's still a team that maybe can surprise. We cannot give up anything just cause there's the chance that there's actually going to be surprise. Also, they are going against the actual Geiger, it looks like.
Yeah, it is going to be the actual Geiger, so a little bit of a grudge match there. That's going to be a fun one. I'm excited to see Castle back in the jungle. That's going to be a lot of fun here. We got to see him he's playing AD in ACL last split, right? It's been a bit since we've gotten to see Castle on his real position. So that'll be a fun match, but it is going to be a while away. He was playing mid on the Golden Grubbians. That's what it was. So now he's back in jungle. That'll be a fun one to check on out, but it's going to be a little while. They are just getting into draft in the live game for game number 2. So extended break coming on up. We'll probably be back like 45 minutes whenever the game ends with the VOD for game number 2. So sit tight, stay tuned, check out some of the other round 1 VODs that were already available, and we will be back as soon as possible with game number 2.
try to make yourself remember, darling. Don't look for me, I'm just a story you've been told. So let's pretend a little longer, 'cause when we're gone, everything goes on. You were staring at the window, and I said, I wanna take you to the sea. And when I'm better, we'll do everything. I gotta stop making promises I can't keep. But if I was gone tomorrow, won't the waves crash on? Is it selfish that I'm happy as we pass the setting sun? Someday I'll be overcast, but you won't have to cry, 'cause we'll do the grieving while I'm by your side. I said, don't try to make yourself remember, darling. Don't look for me, I'm just a story you've been told. So let's pretend a little longer, 'cause when we're gone, everything goes on. And I'm so scared of getting used to this. All the vines that keep you tethered in your room. Well, someday both of us are leaving here, but for now I'll just bring this sea to you. Will you meet me in the daylight like we did before? Then I felt you on my shoulder, and you weren't suffering anymore. You said, I'm sorry that you worried, but don't apologize. I told you to forget me, but you stayed by my side when I said, don't try to make yourself remember.
Welcome back, everybody, to Aegis Esports' coverage of the NACL Open Qualifier Swiss stage, where we're going to be following Lotus for both days of the Open Qualifier. Fresh off a win in round number 1, Lotus now going to be playing up against Castleberry in round number 2. This is going to be Castle's new squad coming in along with the real Geiger, as we called out before, Castle, AHJ, Nightstar, and Barlow from top to bottom. So coming up now going to be 5th seed Lotus against the 19th seed.
Yep.
Still a big seeding advantage, but inching their way up closer, higher up the totem pole as they continue to win more games. So going to be looking to get that perfect 2-0 start and come into tomorrow just one win away from getting yourself into the group stage.
And that's precisely it, right? The difference between advancing and getting eliminated is being able to go over the 3-0 mark. You want to get the 3 victories, and that's it. So putting yourself as close as possible for the second day is always going to be great. It's 2 victories already today, or 2 victories that you want to achieve today, and Lotus doesn't want to get behind that at all. But that's the same for Castleberry, and it does have names that we know of, right? Castle and Geiger are 2 names that have been quiet or playing for quite a while. They have quite a lot of I won't say experience in the OQ system, and there's other players that you want to try and see if they can finally make the jump, Nightstar being one of them. So it's kind of interesting seeing how they can perform. Obviously, being in the 1-0 bracket does mean that they, at the very least, are better than their previous opponents, and they want to try and prove that against Lotus as well. But it's not going to be an easy task.
Absolutely here. I mean, Barlow, a name we've seen around some of these leagues for a while. Nightstar had some time on Conviction, had a little bit of time on Team Ambition. So we've gotten to see a little bit of him previously as well. So going to be fun to get to see how these guys are gelling together now. And now going to be getting into our draft here, which does mean Then our raffle file loaded, and we're going to be good to go with a whole League of Legends game for you guys before too long. Also, who can you forget about Geiger, right? Was part of some of those good runs with CB Gaming, played on the Golden Grubbians just last OQ. Going back, been on a billion different open qualifier teams over the course of the last couple of years, now looking to make it here with Castleberry. It's going to be Lotus on the blue side this time. So interesting, because they were the higher seed in both games. So they chose red in game number 1, but chose blue here in game number 2.
Yeah, changing a bit, trying to be able to secure some of those champions, and with the bans it's also going to take away from Force and Smolder, so things that we've seen, things that have been impacted here and there. Also, just as a quick side note, I love the Castleberry logo. If they make it far, I want the gear they have. I want any t-shirts or anything like that they get. I want them. Those actually would look sick. And also Twisted Fate, the champion we were talking about in the previous game, finally getting some attention here.
Definitely getting a little bit of attention coming on through, and we'll have to see if that's going to be in the Lotus pool later on in this open qualifiers. It will not be available here for game number 1, but looking to take a different angle for Forsen in game number 2 here as they lock in the Senna, give themselves the possibility to go for whatever Senna duo they so choose in the bottom lane. Now Xin Zhao going to be locked in, first pick for Castle. Very happy to be able to get his hands on that one. That's been a pick. It's been in his pool, looking all the way back to teams like Team Ambition Black and stuff like that, where he was part of one of the most dominant amateur teams in that Masters GM kind of tier that there has ever been. Now, moving on to the open qualifier stage here, he's going to be happy to get one of his favorite picks, as well as that scaling Zeri from Nightstar.
Yeah, they gave that Siri and the Xinjiao. We didn't get much opportunity to see it in the previous game because it was banned, if I'm not wrong. And this time around with the Siri, so the hyper carry, one of the champions that feel like was forgotten for quite a bit, but she did get some love, and she's also getting more attention now, so it's going back into the top of her. And I really dislike this combo. I like the Senna. I hate that they picked it with the Nautilus. Not that Nautilus is a bad champ, but like, Senna gives you so many options, and you take the most boring one. That and Tamkench are the most boring options you can opt for with the Senna. So unlucky there, but it's probably for consistency, as the Vi gets picked as well. Odd Orange played really well with the Vi. He didn't have to do much, but it was still really well played. And there are Rakan to close it out, so quite a lot of team fight potential for both of these teams, a lot of engaged potential, and a lot of looking for action in my eyes.
See, I take a different perspective on it than you, TDS. Okay. I like to see my boy Nautilus get to actually build some items and have some gold if he's paired up with the fasting set again. It makes me remember back to the days of Jungle Nautilus, or even Doinbe's mid lane Nautilus.
I like to see Nautilus stop.
That too, right? I like to see these champs start to get, some actual items in the tank. Feels like a good release for the supports who generally don't get to build stuff. That's assuming it's not farming Senna, by the way. A lot of folks have been trying to play the farming Senna lately. I'm not a huge fan of it, but I've definitely seen a couple of farming Senna games. It's not out of the question.
I like the 50-50 Sennas. The ones that are like 50% support, 50% farming, because it actually is more gold efficient that way. So if it's that, I can get behind it. But farming, I'm not a huge fan of that.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely is not my preference. Wow, this is going to be a blind Akali locked in here for Castleberry. AHJ feeling strong on that pick and says, hey, you know what? Corky's banned, Oriana's banned, Nico's banned. I'm just going to take the assassin here and dare Robbie Bob to bring me out something unique. And he does bring out something unique. The Rise locked in here for Robbie Bob.
Yeah, so I've seen Rise... funnily enough, Rise in priority, but I don't think I remember Rise getting love in this patch or in the previous one either, so maybe it's a change. Well, we talked about the changes to some of the mage items, right? And technically speaking, Rod and what was it called, and Archangels are Rise items, so maybe it's that they got love, and that way Rise in priority, but I'm kind of surprised to see it, but it does make it easier to keep tabs on the Kali. Point and clicks, you see, really easy to try and wave clear, and then you can move to the side lanes. As K'Sante was also secured, so Lotus with a pretty consistent comp, and the Nara as well. Favorite to go against the K'Sante because of the range, but you can get killed really easily if you get on top of it, if he gets on top of you.
Yeah, so I mean, these first two games are just going to tell us. I mean, Porsche is all in on the Cassante. He does not have any qualms about continuing to lock in this champion in any matchup, even after the nerfs, as this is going to be his second game piloting the pick in a row. Now facing off up against this Gnar. I mean, the game's going to be all about this Robbie Bob Rise. That's what we're going to have to be wondering about, right? Is the chain CC between him and the Vi is just going to be absolutely gross if you're able to get in there, lock him down with the Rune Prison, get all of your resets. But I mean, Rise comboing, something that takes a few games to get used to, and I feel like is not a pick many people are dipping their fingers into lately.
Yep.
I'm gonna have to check out on the sheet itself, or check out Robbie Bob's account and see if he's been playing this Rise lately, because this is an interesting one to see come out.
Yeah, that being said, there's a lot, and I mean a lot of single target controlled from the side of Lotus. You have the Nautilus Q, you have Nautilus passive, you have Nautilus ultimate, you have cease and desist, you have Rise W and Power W. So there's quite a lot of CC for the side of Lotus on single target control. So it's quite effective to try and keep the Akali, the Seri, even the Raken on taps and not allow them to get onto the backline. It's going to be quite interesting seeing how they perform with this and how much attention are they going to put on the side lanes, because Rise usually means you want to play side lane as well with the Ram Warp. How much are they going to put attention onto there, and how much are they going to try and make plays onto the champion that is left alone there?
That is going to be the question, as should be able to get out of the rift here any minute now. Got the replay already queued on up, and we are onto the rift for game number 2 of the open qualifiers. Lotus and Castleberry both sitting at 1-0, both looking to get that coveted 2-0 start coming in to tomorrow. Want to be able to be as strong as possible. I did check Robbie Bob's solo queue account. He has played 5 games of Rise in solo queue so far this season and won all of them.
Okay, so that's 100% win rate. I love that the top laners, they don't attack each other, respect until the end. Yeah, they don't want to be one of those dirty attackers. I don't remember the actual term that they use, but yeah, they don't want to be those.
You don't want to break you don't want to break the ceasefire there, and even though there's rewards to be gained for it for Porsche. Okay, and there's Mixture. He breaks the rules. He's throwing out some emotes here. He's trying to justify his actions, but there's no justifying this.
Rogue Bob started W. That's actually kind of weird because he doesn't have comment. Oh, Geiger, no, you were doing so well.
Yeah, going to get some of that early damage onto Porsche. Porsche going to regret letting him walk away from it earlier, but now they're going to try to go for a pinch here. I mean, the numbers advantage sits with Lotus, but the range advantage sits with Geiger, who is going to continue to harass. And I don't think I've ever seen this, by the way, TDS. There's literally just 2 players named Geiger in this game. I was always wondering what would happen if you guys both end up in there with different tags. This is what happens.
It's the real Geiger against the fake Geiger, pretty much. And we know who's... funnily enough, the real one is not the one that we actually support in this stream, because we're Lotus, practically.
Yeah.
But it's kind of funny to see.
Yeah, the blue side one, for those who weren't here with us for game number 1, that is still Forsen. He is just using his buddy Geiger's name for funsies down there in the bottom lane. So the true Geiger is the one that's piloting Gnar, as Robbie Bob finds himself a nice little trade early on. I mean, those low cooldowns, that phase rush in your runes, that's going to be very good for these kind of matchups into a weak melee pick like the Akali in the first couple of levels.
Well, he was able to get to level 2 Rise. Level 1 Rise is not that fun. Level 2 Rise is actually where the party starts, because you are able to use your W effectively, and your E. Pretty much your whole combo begins to actually matter, because you now have 2 skills, not 1. But it's going to be fun seeing how Robbie Bob is going to try and make the life of the Akali as hard as possible, and how AHJ is going to go into this, because that is a blind Akali. You have to be really confident that you're going to be able to win against the enemy laner if you're going to pick like that. Or not win, but like be able to have value there.
Absolutely, is all 3 going for this engage here. It's invade a little bit later on. Odd Orange going to waltz away with that Gromp, and not too much the Castle's going to be able to do about it unless he wants to try to cross map. Meanwhile, Robbie Bob continuing to find those trades in mid, as he's the first one to tick level 4, and AHJ in a rough position as he tries his best to sustain up against it.
And here comes Castle on the side. This actually could be a perfect... Yeah, this is a perfect timing.
Yeah, Robbie Bob maybe going to have to use the flash here. He has the phase rush, but yeah, Castle's able to close out on the gap. AHJ flashing forward to slow him up with the kunai, and there's going to be first blood picked up for AHJ. Not the start you were looking for as Robbie Bob trades back and forth in the bottom lane. Barlow going to get farmed for some soul snacks, but otherwise going to be a disengage.
And not the most ideal start at all, especially as a Rise. You want to keep this sort of high control when you're able to start it off really well, but that is really well done by Castle, getting this low, not allowing Robbie Bob to even be able to escape. And I do feel a bit of misplay there by Robbie Bob, not only for positioning himself in a place where pretty much you're giving up, that there's close to no attention there, but also not using his combo in the most effective manner. He doesn't stun Castle, just gets this low from the W, and I feel like if you actually stun him, forcing the flash doesn't really make that much of a difference as dive comes.
Yeah, it's going to get tanked on up by Mixture first. They're focusing on to Barlow, who is going to flash out to safety. Mixture trying to create the distance, but will go down anyway. Nightstar gets the kill, and this is not what you're hoping for Lotus. They fail the dive bot lane. They get nothing back for it. Feeding an early kill into Nightstar's Zeri, and stuff's just going wrong across the map.
Yeah, really weird execution. The idea maybe not necessarily the worst, but it's still not well performed. And importantly, or to add on top of that, the fact that they give the kill to the Zeri, but also they lost out on the plate. I don't think anyone got the gold, so their gold value overall is just negative. And here comes another attempt by Castle. He's doing a really good job at trying to keep the pressure in the map as much as possible.
Yeah, getting good responses here so far, and going to have both kills on both of his carries. Doing his job in the early game so far, knowing that he's going to be the more powerful dueling jungler, and just hovering around this bot lane, making sure that nobody's going to mess with Nightstar as he gets his push on off and sets up for a very nice recall.
Funnily enough, though, this looks similar to the previous game for Odd Orange, where he wasn't really finding a lot of plays around the map or around their lanes, but because the laners were winning by themselves in the previous game by Lotus, it just wasn't that important. But this time around, because they are losing, we may begin to see much more of the lack of attention that Orange was going into the lanes. Like, he barely has had any sort of impact, and the dive that he attempted failed miserably.
Absolutely here. It's now going to be Odd Orange just cleaning on up those grubs. Gets himself first 3. Start things off, going in for that recall now. He's going to have to try to get up to that level 6 and try to make some plays happen with the cease and desist, maybe hoping that Robbie's going to be able to roam around with him. You got to know that visiting the side lanes with that Rise, one of those really powerful roaming tools that you can use is the Realm Warp. And that's going to have to be the look, especially coming in towards this bottom lane. You've got to shut down Nightstars. This Zeri can still be such a tremendous carry coming into the later game.
Yeah, you always have to worry about the Zeri. Anything she does is scary to think about, and there could be a really good potential there by Nightstar to find angles to just carry out the team fights. The positives that you have to think about is the fact that Robbie Bob, even with the death, is still ahead. We haven't seen Odd Orange with ultimate yet, so maybe that could be another avenue for them to try and get impact. And then also in the bot lane, even if they are behind, they still have a Senna. As long as Senna scales, you can find value with this champion. So you have to think about what Lotus can find with those champions, especially this early on.
Yeah. And something else to note about this Rise that you didn't really notice at first, but pretty clear in hindsight, is that the champs' items have been buffed here lately. Yeah. There was that Roa buff coming in the previous patch, and then this patch they buff Archangels as well. So you're going to just be cashing out a couple of additional stats versus where the Rise would have been a couple patches ago. And since you're going to build both of those items, just feels like it's a better life for him. I find Cassidon's kind of in a very similar territory. All of his items just keep getting buffed, and it's making him just a little bit stronger. Robbie Bob going with that same vibe here, but he's going to find himself face-to-face with Castle again pretty soon if he's not careful. Looks like Castle actually just going to focus in on stealing away the birds, though. Knowing that Robbie Bob is pushed up in mid, he might even be able to pay a visit.
Yeah, but with the flash already up for Castle and Robbie Bob having no flash, could be a slight opportunity for them to actually attempt it. But doesn't look like Castle is going to try and attempt it as much as possible. And talking about the items like you're mentioning, Rise is one of those champions that every once in a while when items are aligned, you don't really need a specific buffs because of his combo. Like the fact that he has a point-and-click CC in mid lane, and also the power of the Realm Warp, especially in coordinated play, right? It's always talked about. But the fact that these tools are present in his kit means that as long as there's items around him, he doesn't really need buffs, specific buffs. He just needs to have these extra stats to boost him up, and that way he can be a viable champion.
Very well could be here. Castle paying a visit towards the bottom lane, just sitting in this ping brush, confident that he's not on vision. See if they can get Mixture and force into maybe overexert themselves here. Odd Orange going to be in the area as well. So we have chances for a full-on 3-on-3 here. Instead, Odd Orange just going to jump off into that Dragon Pit and start it up. Now spotted on vision. It's just going to get cleared away, and look like too much is going to come of this.
Kind of interesting that he didn't keep going with the dragon. Looks like he's going to go back with the control that the lanes still do have, but it could have been already at half health with the vision, with the way that it was started, and with the vision control in their favor. But it looks like it's going to be first dragon once again in favor of Lotus. They did this in the previous game as well, so objective control still really good for Lotus. Yes, they are behind in kills, but they have the 3 first grubs in their favor, and now the dragon as well.
Yeah, the objective control looking the same as it did in last game, but a little bit more concerned in the scaling department than I was in game number 1. Because now you got the Senna instead of the Smolder, and now you're facing down that Zeri. It's already gotten off to a good start, so definitely going to have to be a little bit proactive, a little bit sooner than you were previously, but definitely a solid start, and at the very least going to be able to deny this stacking from being able to come through for Castleberry. Castle, the namesake himself, going to look to start off his grub spawn, as this is going to be the second ones of the game, and it doesn't look like Odd Orange is going to be able to get up here in time.
Yeah, they're not looking like they want to try and fight this. Robbie barely has any mana as well, so it just looks like a bad idea, although teleport actually, wait.
Yeah, Catalyst's going to get him a little bit back as he takes some damage from AHJ, who hasn't used the ultimate yet, going to flash over the wall. Meanwhile, Porsche starting off a fight around those grubs. Realm Warp coming on through. Odd Orange doesn't get in time, and Geiger's just going to throw Robbie Bob right back up against the wall. Crescent card for Castle, buying him some time, but the damage is just coming through too fast. Robbie Bob going to be able to pick up his first kill of the game, and Lotus get themselves on the board.
And a good opportunity to talk about that once again, the Realm Warp. Even if the Odd Orange doesn't get on top of it, they have the members to run on top of both Castle and Geiger and be able to follow up on the play. Really well done. They get the last remaining grub, and they don't miss out on anything in mid lane or top lane. So full value able to be obtained there. And Nightstar, maybe a bit of fight here. But
yeah, I mean, Nightstar wins these. Yeah, the one-on-one with that static shiv already completed up against this support item Senna. Yeah, you're going to be pretty happy with that one-on-one whenever you could get it. So yeah, you're going to have to fall back, catch up on the wave, and wave goodbye to Nightstar as he goes off to do whatever he pleases.
Well, he has enough mobility to just jump over a wall and appear somewhere that you weren't expecting at all. But so far, the fact that he already has a static shift, really good for Nightstar, able to make the most out of this item and can begin taking fights effectively. Senna is not going to survive that long and could have even looked to try and move to mid lane and kill Rice. Robbie Bob is not that tankier just yet.
No, he is not. Calling on down. Barlow to just continue to provide some support in this bottom lane, and yeah, it doesn't look like Lotus have been able to create any plays so far, showing that, you know, the Rise, not the most popular of picks lately. I think they definitely wanted to have Odd Orange in that Realm Warp earlier. Could have maybe kept that play going, gotten a little bit more than just a single kill out of it, but it's not end up working out that way. Are going for a bit of an invade into the enemy jungle now, just to get some vision, just to make sure that they have control for the foreseeable future. Still 2 minutes away from that second dragon spawn, but closer to being able to potentially steal away a blue buff from Castle on the respawn.
Going to get a bit of value out of that blue buff and going to try and keep the Xin Zhao as down as possible. With the way that the game has been going, the Odd Orange still does have a bit of a lead in terms of CS, so that can end up stacking up quite a bit later on. And also the extra levels could work out for some potential kills later on as well, as they try to go for Burlow, but
dash out to safety, not going to be able to keep that Rakan locked down for too long. Good attempt, but Mixture going to have to back away one way or the other. I'm going to have just a bit of a lull state for the time being. 90 seconds to go on that next dragon. Still keep your eyes on those blue buffs that are going to be coming up here pretty soon. We'll see if Odd Orange wants to pay a visit towards the other side. I don't know how they feel about their 2v2 matchup right now, though. That static shiv, once again, it's already in the hands of Nightstar. He's gotten that first power spike, and all cooldowns available for AHJ, too.
Yeah, the difference maker is right there with the static shift, also the extra damage items. So if there's ever a chance for a fight with Nightstar present, that can be a difference maker. But the game has kind of quieted down. They had their initial fights before, but at this point, it's just looking like maybe they are waiting for the next objective, be it the Dragon in 40 seconds or Rip Herald that is soon to spawn as well.
Yeah, haven't paid much attention to top lane this game, but Geiger doing a solid job up against Porsche's Cassante. Looking like he's been able to build himself up a couple of waves worth of a lead. Yeah, Porsche's going to be able to clear this out, but it's definitely not going to collapse on what Geiger's already built up for himself, and going to continue to be a pretty solid matchup for that Gnar as long as they're left up in isolation. Kind of the reverse of what happened with Porsche last game, where he was able to just continue building out that lead while he's sitting on his island, and now it's been favoring Geiger so far as the trade comes in back and forth, but that level 11 for Geiger might be able to give him the advantage if he can find a good Gnar into the wall. Porsche doing a good job of keeping it the right distance, though.
Yeah, he's doing really good at trying to make the Gnar not have the best of utilization out of his abilities. The range is always going to matter, but when it's mini Gnar, you run the risk that if Porsche is able to get on top of you, you're going to be put in a top spot as Dragon spawn on the other side of the map, and that means that probably going to be a trade of objectives. Castle getting the Dragon and the Rip Herald going in favor of Odd Orange. And it always comes down to what value are you able to get with that Rip Herald, and I don't think that there's going to be much issue trying to get one of the turrets that is still up. They haven't damaged much the side lanes, but the mid lane turret is quite low, so there could be a good chance there.
Yeah, nice little chunk of gold going into Odd Orange, and we will see how he's able to make the most possible out of this Rift Herald as jumps over the wall, looking to start off the red buff. AHJ kind of sniffs that something's about here, and he's calling over Geiger as well. Odd Orange going to have to give up on this play. Barlow's there as well. Snared over the wall by Robbie Bob to guarantee a safe escape for Odd Orange. Just a little bit of wasted time there as Odd Orange is not really able to snag away anything of value.
Exactly, not getting much. The red buff is going to go in the favor of the Xin Zhao, and the game going back to just the lull say that Birdie has any action between both of them. Also, quickly, it's going to be Infernal Soul, so I'm hoping that that incentivizes fighting, but at this point it just doesn't feel like that.
Doesn't feel like that at all. So Mixture going to get rooted up, throwing down the lightning crash as the fight breaking out. Teleport in behind them. Is Geiger going to be the first targeted? By Geiger, I of course mean Forsen, who's being forced out here. Mixture trying to flash away as well. Will Spider-Man his way to safety as Porsche is TP'd in, but he's too late for the fight. Will be a disengage for Castleberry. Nobody going to end up going down on either side, but TP is blown by both top laners and plenty of summoners out of the Lotus spot lane.
Yeah, it was mostly summoners that were burned on the side of Lotus. Oh, wait, Porsche.
Oh, now another fight breaking on out here. Porsche taking a fair chunk of damage, trying to get his way over the wall. Going to use that all out, but now getting snared up by Barlow either way. Does manage to immune his way through it, and the Ghost will get him out to safety, but Castleberry seem to be the one dictating the pace of these fights. They continue to be the ones who start and end them, and Lotus is not able to really get anything out of it.
Yeah, not going to get Mo. Okay, that was a light. Forsen still staying there. Yeah, he's dead. Why is he coming back?
Yeah, way too far up. No business being in his side of the jungle right now. Castle going to be the one to pick up that kill as Robbie Bob starts to work his way on towards this mid lane outer turret. AHJ coming in with the response. Odd Orange going to be there as well. Root up inside of the smoke screen. Punch connects as well, but there's just no follow-up damage. AHJ going to spin away to safety. Gets back out with the ult, baiting in Odd Orange. Beautiful play by AHJ there on the Akali. Keeps Vi under the turret and closes out another kill. Now Robbie Bob locked down by Castle on the other side. Dawning Shadow comes across the map, but doesn't help anything as Geiger puts him in the dirt. Castleberry come up with a 2 for 0.
Yeah, I'm not gonna call it Gordo, but I'm beginning to smell potential upset cooking here with Castleberry just running everything against Lotus, and they're just getting baited in some of these plays, not really allowing for themselves to get the best possible outcome. They had free turret, they had good trade, but they're just committing so heavily for things that honestly don't matter at all, going back into that Forsen ward that honestly is meaningless. That word doesn't work for anything, but they just get baited into a bad spot, and Castleberry is doing everything right to take advantage out of it. Really good to see from the team, and it's beginning to cook up potential upset.
And you got to give full props to AHJ for that. That was an excellent bait play.
100%.
Diving back in with the shuriken flip to ult out and cancel it with the perfect execution. Takes Odd Orange where he has no business being and is the driver of that whole play. Really impressive stuff, showing why he was willing to blind pick this pick.
Exactly. Blind Akali, you have to deliver in it. And so far, HJ doing a really good job. Maybe behind in CS, but the difference is not enough to make it not matter that much. The Akali looking quite nice, and I'm excited to see how they are going to keep on performing. And on the other side, Lotus, they need to try and regroup and come back into this game as effectively as possible.
Yeah, you're making his presence known here in the top river. He moves his way down just to support around that mid lane. You see Castleberry moving as one around the map. As Geiger comes down to collapse towards mid, Barlow comes up as well. No play to be made this time, but just keeping on the same page, knowing when they feel the need to shadow and staying in sync with each other. That's going to make a big difference if any of these fights do eventually start to break out around this area of the map. AHJ been pushed in for the majority of the game despite his good individual performance. It means this turret is under pressure, and Lotus know they have an opportunity to snag a bunch of gold here.
They have a really good chance to get as much as possible, but there is a slight movement around the map, or that's what it was looking like. Maybe looking to try and gang Geiger up there in the top lane. It's not looking like that anymore, and maybe just a normal setup in the mid lane to try and get the turret. First turret blood, though, I think it's going to be collected by the Nightstar down there.
Ooh,
Okay,
they just barely get it first. It goes over to Lotus. Was getting a little shaky there, but now they've got 4 members pushing in mid, using the Rift Herald for the charge as well. They will get it to about half, but Barlow's coming in behind. Teleport now being channeled by Geiger. They want to get this fight started on a mixture. He's going to be the first target cut off from the rest of the team. They try to melt him down, and they will do it, funneling that kill over to AHJ. Slow connects on a Robbie Bob. Grand entrance going to keep him knocked up, and they melt him down with Nightstar's damage. TP in from Porsche is too little too late as the full 5-man squad of Castleberry are taking an unfair fight here in the mid lane, and Lotus are forced back.
It's 2 deaths for 2 turrets plus a dragon. Castleberry's just finding really good value out of those plates. And yes, they may have lost 2 turrets out of that, but realistically, those are tier 1 turrets. It's not the biggest of differences that you're missing out on with them going down. And in comparison now, another dragon in their favor and more kills for a Nightstar and AHJ. That has to be a nightmare.
Yeah, this is going to become a real big problem soon. Working on that must be Riftmaker second, as it's the second mask. You've already built Leandries, and the only other thing Haunting Guys builds into is that Riftmaker. Just going to give you some more of that percentage damage. It's a little bit of a non-traditional Akali build, but coming on through now, fully completed. Going to give you that extra sustain, going to give you that extra percentage damage in these extended fights, and going to be really, really powerful for him.
Gotta be really strong, going to give the Akali even more potential damage in fights plus a little bit more sustain. So overall, just so much value for AHJ, and the problem for Lotus just keeps on being exposed here with how they've been able, how they're fronting some of these fights. And maybe here, showcasing one of the big issues and one of the big reasons why I dislike the Nautilus Senna. The problem is that technically you're playing with a tank support. Yes, he's great. He's getting the gold, but he's still technically a tank support, and the value of your carry is not going to be the same level as the value of the tankiness. Yes, the tankiness is great, but you're not going to find the damage from the Senna with just an item, although Wade.
Ooh, Barlow face checking in towards this Lotus comp, going to look to take them down. Odd Orange going to look to complete this chase, but Barlow uses the heal, has the movement speed, and works his way out of the fight. Lotus fail in their collapse, and Barlow, he has to blow both summoners, but they're not going to cash out on that.
Just simply so much more value for Castleberry to be able to escape there, and it's kind of scary for Lotus to think about. Now, just quickly want to point out the new, I think this was also the patch of the new, of the buffed, what is called Hurricane, right? Or is it the next
Oh,
one?
I think that's next patch. I don't think you can build it on melees yet. But
I was thinking maybe if it was the one, I wanted to see if it stacked with the, because the newer one is stacked with on hit, right? So I wanted to see if it worked with the static shift to get the prog on any of the bolts.
yeah, not in this patch just yet, but will be something coming on up soon. And still going to be plenty valuable for somebody like Nightstar just to continue to get those blasts raining across the rest of the team comp. Really looking shaky here for Lotus so far as they find themselves about 3k gold down. Really going to need to find a good fight here before too long, but instead it might just be mixture up too far. Spider-Man's his way to safety. He is very tanky, having been farming on that Nautilus all game long. Already has the Frozen Heart completed, so they won't be able to stop him from farming.
At the very least, they won't stop that, and I want to see Forsen how many stacks does he have at this point. Should be looking at, okay, 85. I was thinking he should be looking at 90, 95, 93 maybe. So 85 a bit below the curve, but not the end of the world in terms of how much he could have been getting. That being said, they still need to keep on getting more value onto this Senna because you need the damage. Right now, their main damage dealer is Robbie Bob, and it's not that much.
Yeah, no, I mean, you get some value rocking that nerfed Blood Song. Doesn't have quite as much damage amp as it used to. Definitely going to want to get some extra itemization on towards that Senna as Porsche getting collapsed on by 3. He is pretty tanky in his own right, trying to dash his way out. And yeah, he'll be able to escape with the Ghost.
He actually is quick enough to be able to run away, although Wade Castle looking for a go. Forsen has to flash.
Now going to slow down Forsen. Yeah, he's going to be forced to flash. They're getting the lockdown onto Geiger, but look at this damage. It's not substantial enough so far. All out to pull Barlow back into the team. Barlow is doomed as depth charge going to connect on towards Castle. They want to keep this fight going on towards the jungler. The CC connects, pulled back in by the dredge line, and they're going to melt him down. It's a double kill to Robbie Bob as Lotus come alive, pulling back in a third and making it 3 to Robbie in the mid lane. Realm Warp out, looking back towards the Baron. Lotus come alive here. They win the fight and are going to look to convert it into the Purple Worm.
They immediately move for the Baron, and there, even if you're lacking damage, I still think that depending on the rise, it's probably a bit risky. But when you have enough CC, it doesn't look to matter that much. They will be losing their mid lane turret, but overall, Baron and 3 kills for just the mid lane turret traded. Really good for the side of Lotus, and you have to give so much props there to both Mixture and Robbie Bob. They played the CC chain super well, and also Porch got a couple of knockups that were really important, but the CC chain to keep it alive was crucial there, and they played it off really well.
Really good stuff here to be able to get themselves back to even state. We are at parity once again, and that purple buff certainly going to help Lotus as they look to try to come back into this game. A higher seeded squad here expected to not only qualify for week number 2, but to be one of the higher rated teams in doing so. Struggling early on against Castleberry, but looking like they've been able to at least bring things back a fair bit. Now setting up around this dragon, trying to get the second one to their name, but look behind them. Barlow has been looking for a deep flank here, and if he can find the carries, it could be a big fight. Porsche advancing forward on towards Castle. Look at that chunk from Robbie, nearly taking Geiger out of the fight, but here's the full engage. They've locked down Robbie Bob, and they've taken him out of the fight as AHJ closes out the kill. Porsche going to fall as well, and Castle deep behind enemy lines, going to look to hold on to Mixture like a glove. Takes him off of the fight again. AHJ goes unstoppable. Castleberry 3 for 0. They're going to get themselves on a soul point.
They get the soul point and the perfect angle there by Barlow. Lotus was not keeping tabs on where the Rakan was. Barely noticed him coming from the back and finds the carry. Once again, you're depending on the damage of the Rise, and if the Rise dies, it's going to be really tricky to play out those fights. Perfect execution there by Castleberry, and this game is staying as close as possible. Even with Baron buff, it doesn't look like it's going to obtain much.
Definitely the case here, as probably one of those negative Baron power plays that you never want to end up seeing. And that means that this is going to be another win coming through for Castleberry. Looking like they are just one dragon now away from being able to secure themselves the Infernal Soul. That burst damage on the likes of this Akali and this Zeri would be absolutely tremendous. And everything that Lotus has is funneled into Robbie Bob. He got all the kills in that last fight, nearly one-shots Geiger with him, but when he fails to do that, gets locked down and drops, it is just a disaster scenario for Lotus.
Well, the problem is that he has to be left untouched in a fight, and when they know that it's mainly on Robbie Bob, it's really easy to keep tabs on him and be able to follow up on that. So now the fights in the future are going to be a little bit harder for the side of Lotus, it feels like, but they also have the right idea to play around Robbie Bob. Like you're mentioning, Robbie Bob has a lot of damage.
And they have a hell of a front line to try to keep him safe. They just need to make sure they're going to be able to execute. Root landed there onto Barlow. Castle coming in on the flank. Robbie Bob finds himself sectioned off with the AHJ. He's knocked up by the Grand Entrance. He's cut off from the team, and he drops first again. And Forsen has already joined him. A complete wipe for Castleberry. Only Porsche is left standing, and he is sprinted into the woods, trying to get himself out of here. Castleberry can take anything they want on this map. A massive fight win for them.
Massive victory, and it's looking like maybe 2 turrets and an inhibitor in the radar for Castleberry. But once again, it's just find Robbie Bob, kill Robbie Bob, and it's really easy to get the rest of the fight in your way. You're depending way too much on a single damage dealer.
Robbie's too high level. Robbie's level 17. He's still 20 seconds away from respawning. Porsche has to try to stop them from ending the game, and he can't do it. Ace comes through for Castleberry. Only Forsen is respawned. He can't wave clear. He can't threaten the damage. First Nexus turret goes down. Mixture shows up to defend. Odd Orange is here as well. Castle, the only one staying behind. He will drop, and Castleberry are forced out of the base. The game will go on.
The game will keep on going, but the damage was done. It's 3 turrets and an inhibitor in the mid lane, plus a stealing a couple of the jungle camps inside of their jungle. Everything for Castleberry, and it's looking like Lotus may not have the answers. Like you're mentioning, Robbie Bob may be super far ahead, but HJ is also level 17. Nightstar is level 15. Castle, I don't remember. Geiger is level 16. Like, they're ahead of their counterparts. They are strong. It's only Robbie Bob that can keep the fort going, and it's really scary to think about that.
Yeah, it's 2 fights in a row. Robbie gets sectioned away from the team. Robbie's the first one to drop. You cannot win fights like that as Lotus. Yeah. They don't have the damage on Forsen. Even if they did, he's the second to drop in that last fight. Castleberry, they get right past the front line, right on into the juicy innards of the Lotus team composition. And they come up huge once again. They're now 6k gold in the lead. 1 Nexus turret down. 1 more fight like that. This game is over.
I think there's going to be potentially only 1 more fight. It's looking like, with them trying to push the mid lane, trying to set up around this Baron buff, it has to be a Hail Mary play, because if they lose out on that one, the game probably ends in favor of Castleberry. Lotus has to be really smart about how they approach this, but the vision around to try and keep tabs on every Lotus member is really, really good.
Really, really good so far here. And fresh off their first upset in the OQ, Castleberry are looking to make it 2 for 2. Such a strong start here to an OQ as a bottom 16 seeded team. And I really would love to be able to close this one out, starting 2-0. No feat to scoff at here. Geiger just trying to keep ahead of the rest of his team, spot out anything, and make sure that they don't accidentally give this up.
Yeah, sitting committee in shambles if Castleberry actually ends up pulling the outset here.
Yeah, no, that would be a bit of a disaster. That's the Realm Warp. Everybody porting over to Baron to get it started, but that really only buys you a couple seconds, guys. This is not going down fast enough. Senna DPS is not what you need to melt down this buff. Geiger going to get hooked on in. They're going to start things off onto the Gnar, but he looks like he's a little bit too tanky. Porsche going to push him away, pulling him over. Castle melting down. That's actually Barlow on the other side. He's going to be the first one down. AHJ just absolutely one-shots Forsen and turns it into an even fight. Geiger buying the space. Here comes Nightstar melting through the top laner, focusing on towards Odd Orange second. Robbie Bob is kiting it out, but he's going to drop to AHJ as well. It's a quadra kill to Nightstar. It's an ace to Castleberry, and the seeding committee are not beating the allegations today, TDS, because 19th seed Castleberry are going to start things off 2-0.
Second upset in a row, and Castleberry has to be super proud of how they play this, because they fully deserve this victory. Also vindicating me for showing that Nardo Senna is not the support duo to go. You may win some games randomly here and there, but I bet you more times than less it's not on them winning the game, it's on the rest of the team. But this time around, when you're depending on 1 damage dealer, it's going to be extremely difficult. And Castleberry perfectly realized this. 2 fights straight up, they see the objective, they go for the rise, kill Robbie Bob. There's nothing that they can do after that. And in the last fight, they didn't kill Robbie Bob immediately, but they sectioned him. It was separating the actual damage dealing from the important parts. And then AHJ gets on the backline. There's no more CC to keep traps on there, kills the Senna, and then it's just a waiting game until they kill the rest of the team. It's perfectly executed, and honestly, I love the way that they play this. Castleberry looking like such a fun team to follow, and even if we're technically kind of following Lotus, I'm honestly super glad that Castle gets to show himself like that once again.
Absolutely. I mean, great stuff coming through from a team that comes in as a lower seed, bottom 16. They've had now 2 for 2 on the upsets. They took down, I believe it was Wang's Revenge in game number 1. I would have to double check that one, but I'm pretty sure that's who their opponent was. Yeah, it was Wang's Revenge, game number 1. They come in with that upset over the 14th seed. The way this format works, it's tough to be a low seed, man, because your reward for that upset is that you get to play against an even harder team like Lotus, but they pull it off again. I'm looking at the results sheet right now. This is the only upset in the 1-0 bracket. It is hard to pull these things off. The other teams that even were able to get upsets, they get shut down in the 1-0 bracket because of how difficult this format is for them. Not going to happen to Castleberry. They're moving on to a harder opponent still, and we'll play Winthrop University tomorrow.
Exactly. I was looking quickly at the bracket, and just going from Lotus, which is not an easy team, by the way, to Winthrop has to be kind of unlucky. And we were talking a bit off camera about this, but there really has to be at the very least some incentive to the teams that pull off these upsets against higher seeds. They have to get something in favor of them. That being said, it shows the fun part of the format, because if Castleberry doesn't do this, it probably is Gentle Hearts against Winthrop. So it's more, it beneficiates teams independently without really having to do anything in a way that maybe they weren't expecting, but it shakes up so much of the matches. So it's kind of exciting to see how it's going to go. And hey, if Castleberry pulls even more of an upset and wins against Winthrop, now we begin talking about potential dark horse.
Absolutely here. So that's going to be another big win for Castleberry. They've got a tough matchup tomorrow up against Winthrop University, but looking forward to seeing how they'll be able to do over in that side of the bracket. Meanwhile, Lotus, who we're going to be following here on Aegis, they dropped to the 1-1 bracket. They are going to be playing up against Misfits, the number 32 seed in tomorrow's matchup, as Blue Otter cannot rematch them. So the seeding going to get a little swapped around there. Blue Otter plays against Team YOLO. Lotus will play against Misfits. And this is going to be a banger of a run. Looking like things are going to be a little bit more dramatic than Lotus may have hoped for. But that's going to do it for tonight's games. We will be back tomorrow to cover the back 3 games. Same bat time, same bat Twitch channel. Just come check out. Same time, should be around 9 Eastern when we kick things off, about an hour after the games start in earnest. But until then, that's going to close us out for the night. Go and support some of the other OQ streams. We are going to raid Cubby here. It's going to be breaking down some of the NACL games. We'll see you guys tomorrow.